You guys have probably, you have so much perspective on the Bitcoin thesis, and I'm really excited to be able to explore that with you both today. I thought it'd be helpful maybe to kick things off, just to talk a little bit about when you first developed a Bitcoin thesis, and how that emerged, and what you thought then. And just, I like a little bit of an origin story, and because you guys have been in this asset class as long as almost anyone, and actually professionally in it, and helping other investors be in it for a very, very long time. Maybe just a brief origin story on your own journey into it, and kind of what the thesis was then, if you had it written down from back then and you looked at it. Maybe I'll start with you, Dan.
Yeah, so my career has been investing in these, disruptions, whether they're Russian privatization or, Middle Eastern equities or Tesla Motors. And that was always kind of my hobby. They weren't the biggest things on earth. And I was introduced to Bitcoin in 2011 by my brother. And then a year and a half later or so, Pete Berger and Mike Novogratz, friends of mine from school and from Wall Street, Goldman, asked me to talk about Bitcoin with them. And it really catalyzed my looking at it as an opportunity. And we basically started out with a coffee, and then I haven't left their offices since. And it's the biggest trade of our generation, in my opinion. That all these other disruptions that have traded in the past, they're interesting. They're kind of regional, or they just impact one asset class. This is going after gold and money and cross-border payments. It's going after these massive, literally largest use cases ever. And the kind of the light bulb moment for me was at our first gathering. We got all the leaders in the Bitcoin industry out to Lake Tahoe in 2013, and I just said, hey, Bitcoin's got the same market cap as Urban Outfitters. And I think when they dig up our society all Planet of the Apes style, it's going to have a bigger impact on the world than Urban Outfitters did. And, we're at L'Oreal now. I just think I wouldn't trade Bitcoin for some shampoo, right? Like, it's just going to have a much bigger impact than it's priced right now.
Yeah. It's a great story. And obviously, so, it sounds like when that thesis developed, it was clearly under $100 at the time. And so, it's been a good thesis since then, but that's awesome. Michael?
Yeah, my journey was a little bit different. So I also, spent time on Wall Street before getting into the crypto space. And I had the fortunate pleasure of meeting our founder and CEO, Barry Silbert, in late 2013, early 2014. And when I met Barry, I didn't know much at all about Bitcoin. I wasn't looking to leave the bulge bracket bank I was working for a job in the crypto space. I remember sitting around my office, CNBC was on in the background every day. We'd occasionally see Bitcoin show up on CNBC and have a little laugh or a giggle about it, but no one really knew anything or really took it seriously. And when I interviewed with Barry to, come join what's become now Grayscale, he kind of sold me on this idea that money has just changed so many times throughout society. It's just taken so many forms, and ultimately society dictates what constitutes money. And once he started talking about it in that respect, it started to pique my interest. And then he came up with this analogy that has stuck with me ever since, which is when we think about how transformative the cell phone was to developing communications in the developing world, where there were never landlines, but suddenly you popped up cell phone towers and gave everybody this little tiny piece of plastic, and suddenly everyone was talking. He started to throwing statistics at me, thinking that half the world's adult population didn't have access to financial services, but they all had cell phones. And so this idea that you could put a bank in everybody's pocket was this light bulb, aha, transformative moment. And now 7 years later, Grayscale has become a $5+ billion asset manager, largest in the space. the kind of tailwinds and the people and the human capital and actual capital that's gotten involved. It's just been unbelievable to see and be a part of. I don't think we're yet at that moment where Bitcoin is at that inflection point that does create financial inclusion, but I do think we're well on our way. And my faith and thesis around it still hasn't changed from that initial conversation with Barry.